I'm Mark Zaccaria. This is Common Sense. It's the program where we try to make sense out of the policies that affect your life and come up with common sense solutions. I'm thrilled today to be with Carl Wadenston and Bill Felkner, both representing Clean RI. Clean RI is a 501c3 that has focused recently on the push to get question 2 through on our ballot referendum. And following that, we're going to find out where a little bit Clean RI came to this fight and what are they going to do next. So, gentlemen, thank you very much for taking time with me. It's a pleasure to be here, and I should note we're in the offices of Vibco, which is Carl's company, and of course one of the leading manufacturers in Rhode Island, and probably the leading lean manufacturer. But having said that, Carl, where did the Clean RI idea start, and what was its goal?
Well, I think that the Clean RI idea came from Bill, who's been a champion for us here and just helping us to find out to get more engaged in the state and get more engaged in things that will make us more competitive and just a better state to be part of. So it was some dialogue with Bill, and I think that the group was looking for leaders in the state that had a common sense approach to some of the building blocks that we need to have in our state to be competitive, and also to have the transparency that people talk about so frequently starts with an ethics bill, right?
So, Bill, ethics as the foundation for an appropriate business environment. Is that what you'd say?
Well, that's certainly what brought me to Carl. And you know, I'll step back here a second. The clean idea actually started not this legislative session, but before. And there was an article in the paper where Speaker Mattiello was quoted as saying he didn't see a lot of interest in ethics reform. And I said, gosh, I know lots of people that are interested in this. And so we set about to create a coalition, of a very diverse coalition. And obviously, we went to the advocates, the political advocates, and we made the point to get progressives and Republicans and people from both sides of the aisle. We have, as I had mentioned, the Progressive Democrats, the Tea Party groups, and we also started to branch into the communities. We have the Coalition of Churches, the Rabbi Coalition, and we also have the Atheist organization. And then we also branched into the business community because, again, this is something that affects everyone, and that's, well, Carl was actually one of the first people we went to. But bringing in the business community because they too understand, and if you go to the Clean RI website, you can see some research that corruption has an impact on business. One of the reports that we cite shows that a poll of CEOs around the country show that about 40% of them have run into some roadblock due to corruption. And it's not to say that it's here or anywhere else, but there's certainly a perception of it. So that's why we brought together the political advocacy groups, the community groups, and the business groups to say, Rhode Island legislature, there is interest in ethics reform, and that's why we made the push.
So that's what makes it completely nonpartisan and, in fact, non-political, because it goes way beyond those bounds.
Absolutely.
What you're saying, in essence, is that corruption takes money out of the productive economy and diverts it someplace that's not productively used.
It makes an unfair playing field, no doubt about it. Okay. If every business, and we say this on taxation as well as corruption, if every business has the same playing field, then it's a good game.
So with that history, you organized this group, which has accumulated members from all walks of life and way
Correct.
beyond just the political sphere.
Absolutely.
However, the thing that has brought it to light recently is the political fight that you guys were involved with question 2, with reasserting the authority of the Ethics Commission over state legislators.
Yes.
Since that it had been stripped away in 2009.
Okay.
Talk a little bit about that and how it went right up to Election Day.
Let me just make one point, that Bill talked about, that the article that spurred this on is that I think most Rhode Island citizens and most people in the state just assume that there is an ethics code.
Yes.
They would just make an
really
assumption. And so many times in the public sectors we make assumptions that certain things are happening, and they may not be. So the ethics piece when the speaker potentially thought that people weren't interested is people weren't informed. So the Clean RI was a piece to get people informed, and I think that's what Bill and a lot of the other people in the group are, just to get the information out there, because we can't make decisions on things and have input if we're not informed of what the current condition is. So the current condition is kind of, and I don't want to say laissez-faire, hands-off, but it has very little impact on people, and that's enforceable as well, to say, guys, to be a state, to operate in the new millennium here, we need to have these things as fundamentals. They can't just be assumed things that are happening. They have to be actual processes for clarity, because you talk about that the corruption or non-ethics creates a lot of cost to business. Yes, because you have unclear, unpredictable, unreliable outcomes.
It's an uneven playing field.
It's an uneven playing field.
Yeah.
And that's where you need this even playing field. And that's, the business community deals with this every day, because or else we're out of business. In the public sector, if we don't have this, potentially we're out of business because companies don't want to come here. People don't want to invest in a state because they don't have clarity, they don't have predictability and reliability. Sorry, Mark. I just wanted to make that clear.
Hey, Carl, if I may say, it is greatly to your credit that you interpret the speaker's statement as being misread of uninformed voters rather than being spin.
Yeah.
Cynics among us might look at it the other way. At any event, so with that clarified, let's talk a little bit about the push that you guys have made up to Election Day, which was last Tuesday, and the push for Question 2.
Well, actually, I need to go back 30 years to do this.
It's going to be a long show.
Yes, a slightly longer interview.
I'll make it as brief as possible, because a lot of people don't understand the history of this. Firstly, it's very rare for the people, you and I, to be able to make laws. It's only even an option for us once every 10 years with the Constitutional Convention. And the last time we had one, in 1985, the people voted to create two pieces of legislation or articles in the Constitution. One was separation of powers, which we still talk about to this day on what a great benefit it was. And for people out there that don't know the history of this, before we had separation of powers, that's when legislators would actually put people on things like the pension board that created some of the problems that we have today. So that separation of powers has been a godsend to the state. And then it also created an ethics commission. And the ethics commission, quite simply, had the job of investigating and prosecuting ethical or conflicts of interest for any elected or appointed official. Things went fine from '86 until 2009, when the Senate President, William Irons, who was under investigation, sued the Ethics Commission, saying you don't have the authority to do this. And the majority of judges agreed with him. Not to say that we didn't have the authority to have an Ethics Commission. They simply said we wrote the bill wrong. We wrote the little piece in the Constitution wrong, and all you had to do was fix that. 7 years later, we've finally been able to fix it. And that really speaks to the difficulty of working with the General Assembly. I mean, I remember, again, we lost it in '09. I remember in 2010, then Speaker Gordon Fox said, we're going to fix this. We're with you guys. Had a bill, put it in, and I know we'll get back to this after the break, but that bill died in Senate. And so, again, the battle continues every year.
So clearly it has not been in the best interests of the members of the House and the Senate themselves, and so there has been a bit of foot dragging, that you might say.
Yeah, and there's always nuances, and that's where these things get stuck, and trying not to be judgmental. I would be happy to expand on some of those, but the end result is we didn't get it done until today.
Well, you're more of a diplomat than I might have been, but congratulations anyways. And for right now, we'll leave it at that for the moment. Ladies and gentlemen, we're about to take our first break, but this is a 4-part interview, so please stay tuned. However, I have it on good authority that someone is about to ask the question, are you kidding me?